Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Eitayo. Such a pleasure to be here once again. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and just for your information, I am streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. And if this is your first time joining us on the show, please do let us know. We have what we call the Bell of Blessing. The Bell of Blessing is for you, and of course, to welcome and appreciate you to be on the show. We're going to have a great time today. Yesterday was a fantastic, amazing time. We're talking about living intentionally, and we had our guest from UK in Kilka, and she took us away. And of course, we had our analysts also. Lushola Lumde was present, and spent some time to share some tips with us. And we had Eben as well. Eben was also available, to share some tips with us. So it's been an amazing one. It's been an amazing one, and today will not be a different one. We're going to be having a great conversation on today's topic. On today's topic, we will be talking about leading yourself and others. It's going to be very, very important for us to look at that. But before we do that, let's just go on some few seconds break, and we will be right back. And after that, I will share with you the headlines of the Welcome back and welcome back. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and we are here once again. And on the show today, like I said, we will be having a great conversation about leading yourself and, of course, leading others. We will not be taking headline news today because of the conversation that we have, but I believe that it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting one. And I'd like to appreciate those who are joining us right now. Thank you all for joining. Good morning to you all. And those who are joining us across Facebook and YouTube, welcome as well on the show. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Now, I'm sure that you've heard of the word leadership. You've heard of the word leading. You've heard these are familiar words that you might probably have come across. And sometimes you hear that people tell you that leadership is everything. Everything rises and falls on leadership. These are fantastic statements. These are fantastic concepts that sometimes it will require you to understand the depth of the meaning, to understand the import, the importance of what it's it's connoting, for you to be able to understand that. And a lot of times, the fact that we listen to empowering quotes, we listen to empowering messages, does not necessarily mean we've gotten the keys to unlock the value and the leverage behind such conversation. And this is why I think that for us, we need to spend some time to really take some things into better perspective. And I use the word better perspective on purpose. When we say better perspective, the idea is because we want people to have greater outcomes in all that they do, in all that they represent. And if we're looking at leading yourself and leading others, it's something that I think that applies to everyone. When you look at it, whether you are a working professional, you're a career professional, some people call it, whether you're an employee or you are an employer, an educator, a teacher, a school owner, whatever you find yourself in terms of responsibilities, the topic of today is quite important. It's important for us who especially are actually in the position to drive direction, or better still, those of us who are in the position already of responsibility, or we're nurturing ourselves, or we're being groomed for leadership. You need to understand that it's important for us to know how to lead ourselves and also to lead others. And I'm sure the very first question that might pop up in your mind is leading yourself a criteria to leading others? That's a very good question. And also, is the methodology applying to leading yourself the same required for others? So in answering the first question, is leading yourself a criteria to leading others? Absolutely yes. And why do I say that? Because the concept of self-leadership is gotten from you understanding what leadership in itself is. And many times when I have the opportunity to share my thoughts on leadership or to teach around leadership, I try to bring two definitions into sync. The first definition is that when you look at leadership, you must understand that leadership is more of the mentality. Because if you're not careful, you will give a definition that appeals to functioning or acting in a particular capacity. So leadership is first a mentality, meaning that everyone, young and old, have what you would call mentality. What kind of mentality do we have? Is it a leadership mentality? So what do we mean by leadership is a mentality? Let me help you understand. I consider leadership as a mentality of assumed responsibility. In other words, you have that inkling, you have that disposition, you have that understanding, you have that personal interpretation that whenever you see things, whenever you are around things, whenever you are around people, you have that inkling that it is up to you. You are expected. You're not looking at other people. That is meaning that you have assumed responsibility, and that's your mentality. Anywhere you go, if something has to be fixed, then probably you accept someone says no or someone else says step aside. That makes you always to come to a point and a reality where entitlement is put at the back seat. Now, should you be entitled to things, or better still, should you be a recipient of things? And they're not the same thing. Yes, we will be recipients of things, but we don't want to get into a place where entitlement, begins to breed laziness or makes us outsource, actions and also execution of things to people. Now, if you have the privilege of having things done for you, fine. If your position commands that people do things for you, awesome. But that should not take away your consciousness to respond to taking responsibility for yourself. That's what it is. It's a leadership concept which says you are having a mentality of assumed responsibility. Now, if you want to flip the coin, what it simply means is this. We are now saying that if I understand that my mentality is that when I see something, I shouldn't say, whose fault is that? I probably want to take it up as my responsibility first, solve it as my responsibility first, before looking for who to blame or looking for who was responsible. That's what leadership is about. It now tells you, for one who assumes responsibility of things, it means that when you are in an organization, you don't wait for the person that you think should have given you information. You ask for information. You are taking that mentality that, let me assume it myself. There's a bell at the door, and then somebody pressed the bell. You don't necessarily need to at least wait for someone else to go. You assume that if that there was nobody ringing out. That is what it simply means. And then when you now say you are leading yourself, in other words, it means you are the one who now places responsibility for advancement of self. You are not expecting advancement from outside in, you are making advancement from inside out. Leading yourself helps you to know how to take your ability to a place of action. I normally play this exercise. I tell people to look at the word responsibility and try to break it into words. And you find out that one of the things you have in responsibility is the first word called response. Responses are natural to life. Responses are natural to time. When you think about your response to a thing, then you not look at the word ability. So when you say response, you look at ability. But when you look at the middle letter of responsibility, you have a letter there, and it's a letter I. In other words, it means I need to understand. Responses is tied to my ability. I must respond to the level of my ability. Now, you see, some people mix it up. Your response is not just what is required, but your response to the level of your ability. And that's what brings us to the consciousness of what you mean by leading yourself. When I look at my frame, I look at my capacity, thinking about my knowledge, thinking about my skill, thinking about my exposure, thinking about my understanding, thinking about so many things. All those things I'm thinking about or I am conscious about should actually interpret itself when I get to do things. There are times that people applaud us. The word applaud us for maybe a post on social media. The word applaud us maybe for a comment, a video, for a training, for job done. You know, the bosses can applaud us. The regulators can applaud us. You know, the parents can applaud us, for teachers. And all these things, people say, oh, fantastic, good job, well done. We love what you're doing. You're doing great. You're doing amazing work. But you know something? I've come to realize that even when people applaud us, right, only we can tell if we did 100%. Yes, we were being applauded, but think about it. It probably was 40% you displayed to the world. It was probably 45% you executed. And people were amazed and like, we've never seen this done. Oh, this is amazing. You know, you put together an event and everybody's like, fantastic job. However, think about it from this perspective. If all that people applauded was 60%, then you cannot totally say you led yourself well. You led yourself with an output that was average, even though the world was celebrating you. They were celebrating an average capacity. It means you've trained yourself to do less. You've trained yourself to have less. And when you get to do that, it will be unfair to demand more from others, or better still, it might even become impossible to know how to demand all from others. And that's when we need to ask ourselves, as we lead ourselves, is it that we are delivering some of ourselves? Is it that we are delivering less of ourselves? Is it that we are delivering more of ourselves? And when we get to understand that, you will now see the correlation. Remember, I asked the question, is it a criteria? Leading yourself absolutely is a criteria. Because the truth of the matter is that as human beings, as educators, as business professionals, as career professionals, we have different dimensions of ourselves. So when you say me, when you say you, your identity is a composite of several dimensions. What happens is that we get to lead in some dimensions. So you find some people don't lead in all the areas of themselves. And for you to say you are leading, I want to use the word leading from the concept of position now. So if I'm leading myself, in other words, it means that I'm leading, I'm having a star edge, I'm having a star relationship with every dimension of myself, or better still, should be with every dimension of myself. You understand what I'm trying to say? And so this is very critical for people out there, listening to us and trying to glean from the message today. If you're going to lead others, or better still, let's even lead others. If you're going to lead yourself, you need to begin to say, what are the dimensions of my life? I know that typically